5.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy 5-Piece, producer and engineer extraordinaire, and I'm checking in with you today with a commonly asked question. But before I get to that, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe and bell button so you can stay tuned for more tutorials in the future. Today's lesson, I'm going to actually talk about a small speaker test. What is that exactly? A lot of people want to know how to get their mixes to translate onto smaller listening devices such as cell phones, laptop speakers, and things of that nature. Instead of telling you how to exactly achieve that, I'm going to tell you how you can test to see if it's actually going to translate onto these smaller listening devices. Let's jump into Pro Tools and I'll show you how to set this up so you can execute it on your own. In order to see how our mix is going to translate onto smaller listening devices such as laptop speakers and cell phones, we're going to use an EQ and we're going to put that into our mastering chain. This is actually going to be the last step in our master altogether. We're not going to keep this here, we're just going to use it at first as a reference point. And it's very simple what we're going to do. We just want to basically use the low cut and the high cut filters and filter out a specific frequency range. Once we've filtered out those frequency ranges, these ranges will particularly be ones that smaller speakers don't really replicate or communicate well when they're playing something back. So we're going to be able to hear approximately what these songs may sound like when they're missing these critical frequencies that are important to giving us a very big and full sounding track. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go on the low cut, and I'm going to set a pretty steep cutoff, maybe up to 24, and I want to bring this frequency up as high as 500. So we're really losing all of the bass of this track right now by doing this. And remember, we're not going to keep this on when we finalize and render out our track. We're just going to use this now to get a reference point of what it's going to sound like when the track is done and playing on smaller speakers. We're going to take the high cut filter now, and we're going to do the same thing, have a pretty steep cutoff, and let's say we'll cut around 5,000, okay? Now this is a pretty narrow pocket, right? Some small speakers may actually play some of these frequencies better or replicate them better than other devices, but this is a pretty worst case scenario. So by achieving a mix here or hearing a mix here at this point and understanding what it sounds like, you'll have a really good idea of what's going to happen when you bring it onto these small speakers. And specifically what we're going to want to listen for is we're going to want to listen to our kick and our bass. We want to listen to everything, of course, but really listen to the kick and the bass because these are sounds that are very hard to translate onto smaller speakers. Now, if your kick and your bass are pretty clear still and audible, they're obviously not going to be as punchy and present as they once were because there is no low end at this point. But if they are still there, then at least you know that it will translate well onto a smaller listening device. So I'm going to just play this real quick. I'm going to bypass this for a second, and I'll play you just a piece of this. This is Mañana by EverythingOShauN. It's a record that's out right now. It's doing very well on Spotify, has over 100,000 plays right now. And yeah, I'll just play you a little blurb of it so you understand what it sounds like. Okay, that's cool. So now I'm going to put this in and we're going to hear how it sounds with our small speaker test. So, a couple of observations here, and this is more of a recent realization, me doing this test. I didn't always do this. Even when I was mixing this at the time, I didn't do this. But I'm hearing a few things. Definitely the mid-range is obviously totally fine. We're hearing the vocals pretty clear. I'm hearing a lot of the instruments that are a part of the mix. They're still there. They're obviously not as present, but they're still there, such as the glistening keys and that kind of stuff that's floating in the background. But the kick and the bass, they're really not there anymore. I mean, they are there, but they're really missing, right? They're being affected the most here, which makes sense. And The kick, I think, is a lot more present than the bass. Now, this is basically telling us that this song may not translate well on really small listening devices, right? And it may actually tell you to go back in time, go back into your mix and make some adjustments to help these sounds pop out better, right? And there's a few ways to make these low-end sounds especially come out more, and I'm going to maybe save that for another lesson. But, some ideas is using some EQ and potentially some saturation and doing things to add high-end harmonics to the sounds so that they live more in between this range, right? But the real key here is understanding the purpose of this test and what to do with the information after you've, gathered it from this. So right now, if I were to do this, if this was a fresh mix today and this was not out already and all that, I would be doing this test and I would be listening again to the kick and the bass and the low end stuff, listening to everything, but really listening to those things because those things have the hardest time translating onto small listening devices. And once I understand where they are, make some adjustments within my mix if I need to, or if I feel like they're as present as they're going to be in the given situation, I might just walk away from it and let it be what it is. So there you have it. That's the small speaker test. I definitely recommend you incorporate it into your mixes. Even throw it on mixes that you have right now just to see how they're going to translate. As you could tell, I did it on this mix and there is some room for improvement on my end, but hindsight is always 20/20. Luckily, you have this option that you can incorporate into your mixes today and get a better idea of what your stuff is going to sound like in the future. If you got value out of this tutorial, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends, artist friends, producer friends, anybody you think would benefit from this knowledge. And I hope to see you again soon. Until next time, peace out, everybody. Hey, what's going on? This is your boy 5-Piece, producer and engineer extraordinaire. Are you an artist, producer, engineer, or music professional that's looking for funding for your music career? Could you benefit from having funding for studio time, mixing and mastering, or even marketing costs? I think I have something for you. I've written a free ebook. It's 9 pages, super short and digestible, where I break down the 6 main places that artists and professionals like yourself can find funding for their musical projects. If this sounds like it's of value to you, please click the link below and you can download this for free today and benefit from this knowledge. I hope this helps. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Five.